I've had my Apple Watch for just about a week now, and I already have a scratch. But I have to say, I'm liking it so far. Not the scratch, the watch. There are a lot of comprehensive reviews out there, or at least there will be over the next little while, and those reviews will go into the features and the functions in depth. But what I wanted to do in this review is just talk about what has stood out to me in the week that I've had this watch. The good, the mediocre, and the ugly. So let's start with the good. I got the 42mm space gray aluminum Apple Watch Series 2, and my first impression, as you may have seen in the unboxing video, is that I was surprised by the weight of it, in a good way. The watch head has some good heaviness to it. You definitely feel it whether it's in your hand or on your wrist, but it doesn't feel like it's overpowering for either or for the band. Immediately after unboxing the watch, I set it up and it was quick and painless, so I thought it was worth mentioning in the good category because it was such a breeze to do. And then once it's set up, the first thing you notice is the screen. It's such a nice screen that it definitely falls into the good category. With the new and improved brightness of the OLED screen, whenever and wherever I am, I have no problem seeing exactly what I want to, bright and clear, but at no point does the watch brightness overpower me. And the screen size, which is the same size as the previous version of the Apple Watch, is a good balance between looking good on your wrist and being able to see what's on the screen. But if you haven't had a smartwatch before, you just have to get used to scrolling a bit more than you do on your smartphone. Also in the good category, the speed of the watch. It's pretty awesome. I was reading about the previous version of the watch being slow to a point that it was a deterrent to actually use it. But that's not the case with Series 2. Everything is pretty snappy, especially when it comes to the core functions of reading and managing notifications and swiping between watch faces. There is a little bit of a delay when launching apps, but I suspect it's not as bad as it was in the previous version, and frankly, for what I use the watch for, which is mainly notifications, I don't see it being an issue because I'm not launching apps very much. But that is where I start with the mediocre category. When you take the speed of the last few iPhones into consideration, you're used to a really fast and snappy device. And so when it comes to the watch's core functions like phone and messaging, when you launch those apps and they're slow, it is noticeable and it's not the greatest experience. But like I said, I'm not using those apps very often, so to me it's not the biggest deal. So I got the black sport band with my watch, and while I'm a fan of the build quality and the material used to build it, I'm not quite a fan of the practical usage, and maybe that's my fault. And that's simply because it was and still is a little hard for me to put on. It's taken me multiple attempts a few times to get the watch on, and I've actually dropped it when taking it off. Luckily, it was on carpet, but I'm getting used to it, so the watch band in the mediocre category could very well move into the good category over time. Like many others, I'm a big fan of the new operating system. watchOS 3 is fast and it works pretty much seamlessly with the iPhone, and the functionality and user interface is actually pretty intuitive. But where I've had some issues is notifications. It could be user error, but I don't think it is. For example, I have my watch set up not to ring when my phone is on vibrate, but the watch rings. That's inconvenient and could be annoying in the right or wrong situation. In the watch settings, I've tried mirror my iPhone, which says not to ring on vibrate, and I've tried custom settings to turn the phone sound off, but neither of them work. It's also happening with some notifications where the setup and the settings aren't quite jiving with what's happening, so I might have to poke around a little bit, or maybe even have to take it into the geniuses at Apple to figure it out. One of the most important aspects of a smartwatch is battery life. You're wearing it all day, you definitely want it to last all day. And I haven't had a problem with it lasting just yet. And that's probably a good thing because a watch is not as practical to charge in the middle of the day as a phone or a tablet, because you want to have it on you at all times. What I've noticed with the Apple Watch Series 2 is that you can get through a day with the watch battery no problem. In fact, some days I'm only down to 75% at the end of the day with mild usage. But as soon as you throw some out of the norm activities in there, you begin to notice the battery draining pretty quickly. I noticed this when I went to the gym and used the workout application. It started to drain my battery, and by the end of the day I was conscious of the fact that I might not make it. I did make it, but I could see myself needing a charge on a day with heavy use. I haven't had it run out yet or really even come close, and the saving grace is the charging is quick and easy. You can be back up to nearly full pretty fast. An honorable mention in the meh category is the watch faces. I like what Apple has done to allow you to customize the faces because it allows for a lot of flexibility and usability. But if we're going to be spending upwards of $500 on a watch, I think there's got to be full customizability in terms of how it looks on the outside. Third-party watch bands are one thing, but the watch face is essential to the uniqueness of a watch. I hope this is just a case of Apple waiting for as long as they possibly can to open up custom watch faces to developers, like they did with the iPhone and wallpapers and ringtones. But there could be a possibility, and this might be likely, that Apple wants to protect the watch face and how the Apple Watch looks on the outside and on your wrist. And I, for one, wouldn't be a fan of that. It's the kind of approach that has turned me and a lot of people off of Apple products for a long time. Yet I keep buying them. And that brings me to the ugly category. My 14-year-old cousin said this to me the other day, and he's absolutely right. He said I paid about $300 too much for my watch. Now, I tried to defend myself by saying it was cool and smart, but really it's just Apple. There's a lot of cool and smart watches out there, and they cost a lot less than the Apple Watch. And for what I'm doing with mine, mainly using it for notifications, which is what most of us will be using it for, I suspect, it is overpriced. But with Apple being who they are and having had the success that they have, they can charge a premium for their products. And they do. Now, I haven't really had a chance to test the GPS or the watch being waterproof, but I plan to over time. And since I did buy the Apple Care warranty, I shouldn't be too worried about it not functioning, because if it doesn't, I can just go get a new one. Overall though, despite the price and a couple of the glitches that I've had so far, I'm actually really pleased with the watch. Like with most Apple products, there aren't any shortcuts or sacrifices, and with the new watch operating system and the second version of the watch itself, they have brought it up a notch, and that's a good sign. And with this watch, you get a really quality product that works well and looks great. So that's just my initial review of the Apple Watch after having it for a week and using it in a couple different places. I'm sure I'll have some updates over time, and I will update this review when I do.